We are live, and today I'm just coming on to answer some questions. Webinar the other night about getting your dog to focus on you more on a walk, especially dogs that are reactive or, very highly distracted, especially around other dogs. Now, I've just come on, so I'm just going to check that it looks like it's working on my end. And if you are on, if you could just let me know if you can see me and hear me okay in the comments just now. And if it's a little bit sketchy, we might switch over to a different software to run it. So if you can just comment if you can see me and hear me okay, and then we'll get started. Okay. So just waiting for confirmation. Yep, we can. Okay, great. So we did a live online event. What's today? Today's Friday, so two nights ago, and it was really great. We covered a lot of information about getting a dog to be more focused on you and to find you more valuable. And we had lots of questions that we answered live on the call, but they kept rolling in, and I had a few people email me afterwards. And the great news is a couple of people send me emails just this morning. They've been working on it for one day, and they were saying that they're already seeing a difference in their dog's behavior. Hi, John. Yes, we did only just start, so you haven't missed anything. So then we had some questions come in, as well as some of the fantastic wins that people are already having using the techniques that we used and explained on the live call the other day. And so I'm just going to go through those questions, and if there's any further questions that you guys have, you can put them in the chat box, and we'll keep answering. So Judy said, I tried your tips from the webcast last night when on lead rewarding when the dog looks up at you. Well, Cindy, my pup, is very, very food oriented, and she kept looking at the hand which was giving the treat and not actually at me. Should this be rewarded? She did reward, but she just wanted to check. So you can reward that if it's the very beginning of your focus exercise and your dog has never done it before, and you're getting them to at least look up at you when they would otherwise be very distracted. However, in your case, it does sound like Cindy is probably more distracted and finding more value in the food in your hand other than you. So a couple of things you can do here. First of all, put your food in a treat bag or somewhere where she can't see it. Don't carry it in your hand. If she knows it's there, she's going to be looking at it. If you have a dog that's so distracted that them looking towards you and the food at all is a win, then you would just reward it as a starting point and then work your way up from there with your dog looking gradually further and further up towards your eyes. But if she's the type of dog that's really obsessed with food and you think that she's not going to get that distracted by other things because she's just still staring at the food, then put it away. Still have it somewhere that you can reach it and get it fairly quickly. But once she knows that it's in your hand, you'll find she's going to keep looking at that. So put it away, but still have it on you, and do what we discussed on the webinar, where you're walking back and forth and try and capture her looking up when she doesn't know that you've got the food, or she at least can't see it. And then she's less likely to look at your actual hand. So everything else is the same, but you make sure you get the food out after. In fact, it's good for everyone to get the food out after they've said their marker word and follow it up with the treat. Is do that, but once you've done that, you can accept little increments of her looking upwards until you get the eye contact. And another thing you can do is train a separate focus exercise where you have the food somewhere that she can see it, even in your hand, but you just wait until she gets maybe a little bit frustrated and looks up at you to see what's going on, and mark and reward that where she looks up higher towards your face. So hopefully that explains that well and clears that up for you. I had another question on the website saying from Elaine. She said, my male German Shepherd dog is aged 10 years old and he's a rescue, having been caged most of his life. He's reactive to other dogs and strange objects and initially to people. Is he too old to change? Well, and I did send you an email reply as well, Elaine. It could be slower than a lot of dogs would learn because it sounds like he has had a rough past, and that could definitely affect his rate of learning. Dogs should be learning how to learn from early on. They always are, and that history is going to have an effect. But on the flip side, it's not true that an old dog can't learn new tricks. So it's never too late to make a change. It's just that it might take a little bit longer than it would for a younger dog or a dog that's been training since a puppy. So take really little baby steps and just celebrate every tiny win that you can get with him. Donna said, do intact dogs react more than desexed dogs? And that's a good question. Intact males can be more reactive, generally because they can be more territorial, but it doesn't mean that they can't be trained out of it. It's still a training issue. So they might be more likely to do it. It might be a little bit more challenging with some of them, but it can definitely still be trained out the same way as for any other dog. So it's definitely not a reason not to try or anything like that. Mary said, I have fear and anxiety around big dogs. Do you think that affects their behavior and focus? So she means that when she's out walking her dog and she herself has a fear of big dogs that are around, she's asking, is that going to go down the leash and communicate to her dog that something is wrong? And we don't know for sure what dogs are picking up on, whether they can smell our fear or what, but I definitely believe that they pick up on it one way or another. So it's, I think, to do with the way that you tense up your body and your body language, because they're masters at reading our body language and they notice things that we don't even notice that we're doing with our bodies. And any little subtle signal, if it has led to them then coming across a dog in the past after that, it only takes one instance of that for them to think, okay, mum does put attention coming into the leash, and that means another dog's coming and it's something to be worried about. So I definitely think that that could have an effect. So it's important for us to stay calm and confident when we're handling the leash and walking our dogs. So for those that have just joined, I'm answering questions that came from the live event the other night, but if you do have any more questions on the topic, you can put them in the chat box now as well. All right, so I've got a question come up from Delvine about barking. Depends, is she doing it when you're not home? Is it a reactive sort of barking, like is she scared of something, or probably need a bit more information? But if it's just general barking, it's a bit off topic to what we're talking about today, but there's some information on the website and a video about barking. If you go to the blog and search for barking at dogmatters.com, and there's a list of tips there. Jim, he said, with a dog that's reactive on the lead, can you have them social in dog parks? And that's an interesting one. So yes, you can have dogs that are reactive on the lead, but they're fine off the lead. So that comes usually from frustration or to have as much space to escape. So some of them are fine to be around other dogs off the lead. However, if you're working on reactivity, especially if it's coming from excitement and over-arousal in play, then I think you should limit the playing style, that it doesn't get too overexcitable or too rough. Make sure you do it with calm social dogs. And because of all those reasons, I probably wouldn't pick your typical dog park unless you're meeting a friend there with a dog that your dog knows really well. I just find dog parks a bit risky in general. So you need to exercise caution there. And if you're working on reactivity that comes from overexcitement, I definitely think you should limit the amount of excitement that your dog is having when they are off the lead. And it's Friday, so I am having a beer. Lauren said, sorry, I don't know if it was Lauren or Laura, said that her dog is reactive to using treat rewards. So if the dog knows that she has them on her and sees another dog, he gets possessive of her, as if the other dog's going to come up and take the treats. So that can happen. You could try using a lower value food reward, or you could try switching to a toy reward. So it's one of those cases where you might actually need to lower the value of the reward and or you can try working at a further distance. And we also cover some other techniques to deal with that in the Frantic to Focus course as well. Judith asks, do you have any suggestions for what kind of treat to use? So when we were on the call the other night, we spoke about how when you're picking a reward or a treat, whether it's a treat or a toy or whatever it is, the most important thing about that is that the dog actually really loves it, and so they kind of choose the reward, some people say, rather than you just picking one and having it suit to them. So the most important thing is that the dog loves it, that it's small and you don't have to wait for them to chew up a big meal after you've passed them a treat. So not too hard and crunchy. So a nice small soft treat. Suggestions to try out for that I like is one is just steamed or chopped up cooked chicken, because that's nice and, well, it's healthier than some of the other treats that we sometimes use because it's just chicken, nothing else added to it. You can try, liver treats seem to be really popular, but I don't find that dogs really love them as often as people tend to think that they're going to. So often they'll take it if you offer it to them at home, but they won't actually put in effort working for it. So that goes for treats, but I have found some others that are really strong smelling and nice and small, and the dogs go nuts for them. So you can definitely experiment with some of them as long as they're not so big and crunchy that it takes forever for the dog to chew it up. What else? I often use Devon. It's not the healthiest treat, but that some people call it the dog trainer's secret weapon, because it's a good one to pick if you don't know what dog you're going to be getting with a client's dog, because it's just so much like a treat to them, and it smells like really strong and tasty, and it's like people food. It's definitely a special treat and different to anything that they usually get. So a bit of something like that is okay. I don't think that a little bit's going to harm it, but I wouldn't be giving them cupfuls every day either, because it's not the healthiest thing. It's got salt and usually preservatives and stuff like that in it. Leftovers, if you've got leftover meats, but meaty, smelly things are best, and of course as natural and healthy as you can manage, but the dog has to love it. That's the most important thing. We also spoke about last night that if your dog's fearful or anxious, one of their goals is to create space and get away from the trigger, which is often the other dog. So she then asks, if your dog has a fear reaction and you take them away, are you showing them that that's what will work to get the distance? So do we keep them close in that situation or totally get them out of there? That's a fantastic question. So part of this is management and really trying as much as possible to avoid that situation while your dog's still in the training phase of learning to be around other dogs and not react. The second part of that is, if you find yourself in that situation and your dog's going nutso and you can't get them to calm down or maintain or regain any control, then there's no point staying there either. They're not going to learn anything from that either, and try and increase the space anyway. So yes, you would get out of there and get to a distance that you can regain control and try and move on to something fun and positive with your dog and settle them and move on as if something didn't happen. And next time, try harder to avoid getting into that situation if you can help it. A good way to do that is to call your dog and move backwards and try and distract them into that, and use the leash. I see a lot of people standing there holding the lead and like talking to the dog, or telling them commands or calling their name, but when they're in that state, they're not going to pay attention to any of that. So just try and call them away as you're pulling on the lead, and just get distance so that you can recover. Nadia says, I took on an 11-year-old German Shepherd rescue and was getting good results, but she's now deaf. Can you get focus if they can't hear you? Yes, you can. So you feel some sort of physical touch. So you could, if they're on the lead, you can just do a gentle tug on the leash and teach them that that means look at me. Or you could use a vibrating e-collar and use that as the tapping thing. Jim says, what happens if the dog's not hungry or doesn't want the food? And we did cover this the other night in detail, but I've never seen a dog, put it this way, I've never seen a dog that I meet them and they're not taking food and that I can't get to work for food. And the reason that we try to get them to work for food and make that our goal is that it's just the easiest reward, in my opinion, to use. You can train them with a toy. That's fantastic as well, but not all dogs have the drive to work for a toy either, and it is a little bit more difficult for some people. So if they're not hungry, then you need to wait until they are to train them. You need to stop leaving food out. You need to make sure you're not overfeeding them in general, and you need to make sure they're on a clean, healthy diet. And if they don't want the food, it could be that it's too low value and all of those things, like they're not hungry enough or they're getting overfed. Usually every dog that I meet that isn't taking food is getting overfed. Lots of them are overweight, and nearly all of them, the people are leaving out dog food. I've had a lot of people that not only are they putting out the biscuits, but they're saying, yeah, we leave them out, but the dog doesn't eat them. And I have to ask a few questions to get to the stage where I say, you know, do you give them bones? And they're like, oh yeah, we give them a big bone every day. Well, that's a whole meal. That's not a treat. A bone isn't a treat. They eat the whole thing, and it's very fattening and filling, especially if it's those bones with any marrow inside, and very fatty as well usually. So that's not a treat, something to have on top of their biscuits. That's a meal on itself. It's a healthier meal. That's probably why your dog's holding out for that and not eating the biscuits. I don't blame them. But it's a meal, it's not a treat. So if your dog's getting bones, that's great, but make sure that they're not getting other stuff on top of that as well as an additional thing. Olats said, how do we deal with our dog's insecurities? My rescue dog is around 1 year old and is gradually becoming fearful of things she wasn't worried about before, and I'm not sure how to handle it. She barks at everything now. We're afraid she was hit as a puppy. We got her at 4 months of age. So 4 months of age, a dog's at the end or finished the critical period of development that they have as a puppy. And if they don't get socialized in that time with other people or anything like that, any environments or machinery or noisy things, then it's highly likely, especially if they're genetically timid as well, that they're going to be fearful of that thing. So the majority of cases with dogs that are adopted and people saying, I think the dog was abused or beaten, is, unless you know that for a fact and you know their history, I really think it's not as common as we think, because I think in most cases it's just that the puppy hasn't been exposed to enough people or enough environments or enough change, and they're just not used to it. So it's important to do a little bit of training every day and do training that revolves around her having wins and gaining confidence. So lots of really fun, easy tasks, end on a high, short training sessions, and lots of exposure. So once you've got her working comfortably with you at home, take her out to lots of places that won't overwhelm her, and just have a little short session where she can just take in the sights and feed her treats and try and have fun around those things that she's a little bit worried about. And we can treat that a lot like the way that we treat reactivity as well, so doing the full program. Just reading another question. So Lisa says, she's wondering whether some reactive dogs need medicating so that they can learn better. As I feel with our dogs, we have one main reactive mini schnauzer, but I have been seeing they are all reactive inside or with visitors. So of course it's even harder outside. Well, it's a personal choice, but I wouldn't rush into it. I would try training and behavior modification first with a trainer. And if you're going to medicate, do it in conjunction with training. Don't just rely on the medications. I don't want to rush to put dogs on medications. I'm not against them altogether or anything, but I just don't want to rush into it, because I do worry that the dog can't tell us how they're feeling or what side effects they're getting, and it is changing chemicals in their brains and things like that. So what I would try first maybe is a natural remedy. You can get some great natural ones. Like one off the top of my head is called Sprinter Gold Focus, and it's a powder that you can put into their food with some vitamins and minerals in it that promote calmness and help anxiety. You can also get the dog appeasing pheromone collars. The well-known brand is Adaptil, and that can help dogs calm down as well. And all of those solutions are more natural, so that's what I would try first if you want to do that, but all of it in conjunction with training. Okay, I think that's it for questions. We blazed through that. If it's in. Well, I have a sip. So while I'm waiting for any more questions to come through, just a reminder that there's some bonuses available until Monday at midnight Queensland time to join Frantic to Focus, where you can run your reactive or highly distracted dog through our whole training program that's getting fantastic results for people. Go and have a look at dogmatters.com/FTF. And for anyone that joins before midnight Monday night, we're also adding in the bonus of 15-minute one-on-one private calls with me. So you get me all to yourself to answer your most pressing questions that you have or most frustrating things that you're going through with your dog. We can talk about it one-on-one. So that's just available till Monday at midnight. Also, at all the great results that all the members are getting, there's video testimonials and that sort of thing. So if you want to get your dog to stop being reactive, pulling on the lead, and enjoy walking with them again and not worry about those reactions and actually enjoy your walk and have it be more calm and relaxed, then have a look at that. So dogmatters.com/FTF for Frantic to Focus. I'll put a link in the comments afterwards as well. And as we get more questions, I might do another one of these over the next couple of days. And otherwise, I'll see you in the group Dog Matters community or right here on the page. And thanks very much.